Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Jake Wood. I'm the founder and CEO of Groundswell. I think perhaps more appropriate for this conversation, I'm also the founder, former CEO, but currently executive chairman of the International Disaster Response and Humanitarian Relief nonprofit organization, Team Rubicon. It's in that capacity today that I join you here on this live stream. Obviously, in my capacity as having run Team Rubicon, I'm no stranger to disaster zones. And in fact, Team Rubicon had its origin story 13 years ago, almost to the week, following the 2010 Haiti earthquake that tragically took nearly 150,000 lives. So it's with, just a ton of heartbreak that I've observed the situation unfolding on the ground over the past several days in Turkey and Syria. I thought it was important to bring in a friend and colleague, Dennis Clancey, to just explain the situation that's happening on the ground, what we can expect over the next couple of days. And I think perhaps most importantly, how you, either as individuals or as leaders within your organizations, can support in this effort, which really is a global effort. So again, I'm joined here by Dennis Clancey. Dennis is on the ground with Team Rubicon's international response team in Turkey. He is approaching midnight, but he's no stranger to long and hard days. So we're lucky to have you. Dennis, thank you for joining here today.
Yeah, Jake, thanks for having me.
So, I understand that you just recently arrived. I imagine that the sun may have been down as you were making your way into the disaster zone, but I think just to perhaps set, level set here, why don't you explain to the audience what the last couple of days have been like for you, what the trip in has been like, what did you see, and then what do you expect to happen over the next couple of days?
Absolutely, Jake. Yeah, so as soon as we found out about the earthquake, which was really Sunday night back in the United States, we started making plans to send myself and another person over here. I'm here with Dr. Morgan Bercoli, who's on our team, so that we made sure that we were making decisions not from the U.S. but here with all the various agencies that it'll take to be in Turkey. Turkey is a well-developed country. It's not a country necessarily that permissively allows people to do as they wish within their own borders, and for good reason, right? They want to be able to help coordinate and structure this response in accordance with the priorities that they have. So we got in late last night. We are now, as of an hour ago, in Adana. Adana is at the south part of that fault line that extends up to Gaziantep. So this was an area very much affected by the disaster, but it's also the key place where coordination is happening. So when we were coming from Istanbul to Antalya to here, there are teams from countries around the world trying to make it here. They're very limited flights. The things that you realize very quickly coming into the country is much of the country is blanketed in snow right now. It is very cold. We often don't think of Turkey in that way, but that's going to create additional complexity for the people that are trying to recover, still trying to find their loved ones. The major effort right now is urban search and rescue. Yeah. There's rubble on a just crazy scale across this region here and then extending into Syria, and making sure that there are teams assigned for that magnitude of destruction is something that's ongoing.
Yeah, so you mentioned urban search and rescue. For those that are watching, this is a highly technical activity. You may have seen the news that LA's search and rescue team has recently been flown in on U.S. military flights to assist. This is pretty common for events like this. You need very special equipment, very special training in order to manage these debris piles and ensure that you're not creating secondary collapses and hurting workers in that effort. So organizations like Team Rubicon and some of the other NGOs that are on the ground are not engaging in that technical urban search and rescue. So what's the role right now, Dennis, for groups like Team Rubicon and others?
Yeah, right now it's making sure that we are known what our capabilities are. So we've been coordinating with the WHO, informing the ministries within Turkey so that they understand how quickly we can get here, what we can bring to bear for the disaster. There are going to be a lot of needs coming out of this initial search and rescue phase, and we want to make sure that, as people are being brought out of rubble, that there are medical services, that those existing hospitals aren't overwhelmed. A lot of them have had damage, and so there's going to be strain on the medical system, but there's also going to be strain on just basic needs that humans have because there's a disruption of supply chains.
Mm,
So food, water, we talked about how cold it is, shelter.
yeah.
There are various things that need to happen fairly quickly to reduce the amount of suffering here.
Yeah, so I mean, you touched on this, right? Turkey, well-developed nation, member of NATO, well-developed Ministry of Health, Ministry of the Interior, and so in some ways, well-positioned to handle a moment like this. Though, I mean, let's be honest, I think this would overwhelm just about any nation, including, the U.S. federal government, if it were to happen here. But Turkey has a really unique aggravating factor that it's been dealing with for several years, which is the influx of Syrian refugees that have been living just across the border. So how is that factoring in? What's that mean for the situation?
I mean, there is already a significant displaced population here in southern Turkey. And you bring up a good point. For everything that we know about Turkey, to the degree to which Turkey, understands the magnitude and the need of this situation, let's be honest, Syria's been in a horrible, fragmented scenario for the last 10 plus years now. So the amount of information coming out of Syria is not of the level. The ease of coming into Turkey and providing services allows for teams to get in quickly and start providing impact. Um, there are certain complications with having to navigate the terrain within Syria. There's ongoing fighting. Towns affected by the earthquake are still getting bombarded, and so that's really challenging. I look at it as, if an organization can get a foothold quickly and start having an impact within Turkey, it gives them a bit of time to figure out the additional complexities of being able to deliver services within an environment like Syria.
Yeah, and I think it's an important point to make. Obviously, the situation in Syria, the security situation in Syria is complicated by the decade-long civil war that's been happening there. Various factions in the north of the country on the border with Turkey are in control of various swaths of territory, some more hostile to foreign actors than others. But for those that are looking to direct, say, monetary support to the situation to help, Syria is on kind of a blacklist within the U.S. There's not Syrian-based organizations that you can send money to. So you really are having to go in through those international NGOs that have networks on the ground of local nationals to facilitate some of that. But I'm sure even that has become decimated in the aftermath of this, right? So it's going to take some time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been reaching out on both sides of the border just so we understand the where the greatest need is and where we can have, the quickest impact. We have, oftentimes Team Rubicon's focused in that immediate onset of a disaster, but definitely not taking anything off the table right now.
So what's this look like over the next kind of maybe 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, right? There's various phases of a disaster. Right now, we're talking about mostly technical search and rescue. There's some other activities that are happening, but how's this unfold over the next 3 months?
Yeah, I think right now we're very much in that shock phase, right? People are looking for their loved ones, unaware if they're within rubble. So there's almost a kind of a heightened sense of survival right now. As we get further down, that starts to wane a bit, and people need, as we mentioned earlier, access to food, water, shelter. You can have these various kind of follow-on effects. You have infectious disease. You could
Mhm.
have people that start to take advantage of the situation potentially. Then you get into situations like
Like
human
human
trafficking.
trafficking? Is that what yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's it's very clear the purpose very early on, and it's very easy to see where we have to focus our attention. Over that medium term, it really focuses into maintaining the sorts of systems that can sustain life. So it's making sure that there's access to healthcare, food, water, shelter, and then getting into like the 3 months, the next 3 months. Eventually, people are going to be displaced from these regions, but they ultimately need a place to be able to reside and live. So the sooner that Turkey can start working on the recovery aspect, again, after it solves the more immediate problems, the better off they'll be in the long term.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that people fail to understand and realize is that any societal issue that existed before a shock like this is exacerbated, compounded in the aftermath. So vulnerable populations, prior to disaster, single mothers, persons with disabilities, in this part of the world, women and children, or young girls specifically, who may have faced some hardship prior. I mean, those hardships are tenfold on the backside of this. So, people often think about an earthquake and they think about search and rescue, right? That's the image that you're seeing on CNN. You see, this morning I woke up and I saw it, this heartwarming video of a toddler and then an infant getting pulled out of rubble alive. And, as a father of young girls, it's like the most tear jerking moment that you can imagine. But, you know, even those displaced persons who may have fled Syria, living on the Turkish side of the border, who were in tent communities, largely not being impacted by this disaster. The tents don't crumble in an earthquake. Their lives are going to be made more difficult by this. The services that we're providing them with support are going to be diverted. It's just a fact of life. Anything you want to add to that?
No, you made the point exactly. So you have a lot of organizations that are working along the border, helping those communities. Those communities have the same needs they had 3 days ago, but now there will be a diversion of resource. Hopefully, I've talked to a number of NGOs that are here that are looking to surge additional support into the existing programming that they already have in the region,
Yeah.
so they don't necessarily take away as they respond to this disaster as well.
All right. Well, listen, I know it's approaching midnight. I want to ask just one more question. I think it's important for people to understand what life on the front lines here is like. I mean, what's a day in the life going to be like for you and the doctor here? Maybe tomorrow. I mean, it's probably not as glamorous as people might think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a ton of meetings, right? We want to make sure that with whatever services we provide within the country, that we are well integrated into the broader mechanism. If we're seeing medical patients within Turkey, we need to know where to refer those individuals, who to call at that hospital to make sure that we have continuity of care. So it's making sure that we understand our place within it. And ultimately, we have to have permission to be able to operate within the borders of Turkey. So that's additional conversations that we're having. There's a ton of ground we have to cover as well to understand exactly what this looks like. Obviously, being here in Adana, we have a good sense of it, and we have a team back in the United States that's feeding us a ton of information, helping us to determine who we need to talk to.
Yeah, well, listen, I appreciate that. I think, this is a round the clock effort. And, I've been fortunate enough to be alongside you in disaster zones. I know you don't need a whole lot of sleep. So appreciate you going over there. I know it's going to be a long couple of weeks for you and the other responders that are going to be joining you over the coming days. I just want to close with this. We got a lot of people that are watching here across a bunch of different platforms. You're probably thinking, or have been thinking over the last 72 hours, what a horrific event that's unfolding in Turkey and Syria. And you've probably been moved to take action. But if you're like a lot of people, you don't know anything about Turkey and Syria. And so don't allow that to be an excuse. Don't stay on the sidelines. Don't let apathy take hold. Groundswell's been providing some resources and recommendations for organizations like Team Rubicon that are working on the ground. You may think to yourself, hey, we'd really love to find a local partner on the ground. That's what these large international NGOs are doing, right? They are Team Rubicon, IRC, ICRC. They're going to go in there. They're going to identify best in class local actors to partner with. So you can rest assured that your money will flow through these INGOs and be put efficiently to work on the ground with local partners. Please don't, consider sending things like blankets or coats. You hear Dennis talking about winter being deeply set in this part of Turkey. Cash is king in these moments. These organizations need flexibility to be able to respond as nimbly as possible. And managing physical donations of goods is often more drag than lift in these scenarios. So please resist that urge. If you can open up your wallets and support, I know these organizations desperately need the help. If you're a corporate leader out there, look no further than what the CEO of Chobani did, announcing yesterday that he's putting $2 million of his own money to work in challenging his employees to join by offering an additional match. So thank you for tuning in. Dennis, so much thanks to you and your teammate over there. I know you had to leave on a drop of a dime. The people of Turkey and Syria appreciate it. All of us back home, thank you for representing the best of us, and good luck over the next couple of weeks on the ground.
Thanks for having me, Jake. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.